Hello everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of Hello Word. My name is Alex, and I am absolutely delighted to have you join me today. This program is all about expanding our English vocabulary and exploring how we can use new words and expressions in our daily routines. Our main goal is to help you feel confident whenever you want to communicate in English, whether you are traveling to a new place, chatting with friends, reading a recipe, or simply practicing your language skills for fun. In today's episode, we will dive into a specific set of words related to kitchen items and baking utensils. We will talk about what each of these words means, how each one is used in conversation, and the ways you can include them naturally in sentences. It is going to be a fantastic opportunity to learn more about objects that appear in everyday life and to discover new vocabulary you can use anytime you step into the kitchen or visit a grocery store. Throughout this episode, I will give clear and detailed definitions along with practical examples so that you can understand exactly how to apply these words in your own life. Remember, the best way to get comfortable with new vocabulary is to practice using it regularly. You could write these words down and revise them later, or you could even practice them right now by saying them out loud as you listen. Whatever method you choose, stay motivated and keep an open mind, because each word we learn is a stepping stone toward greater fluency. Let us begin our language journey together and explore all these wonderful English words that will make you sound more confident and knowledgeable when you talk about cooking and baking. Let us begin with the phrase kitchen timer. A kitchen timer is a small device designed to measure specific amounts of time when cooking or baking. It helps you keep track of how long something has been in the oven, on the stove, or resting in a mixing bowl, so you do not accidentally burn your food or leave it undercooked. In everyday conversation, you might hear people say things like, "I set the kitchen timer for 20 minutes to make sure my cookies do not get too brown." It is very common to use the word timer whenever we want to emphasize that we have only a certain window of time to complete something. For instance, you could say, "I need a quick break, but I will set my timer for 10 minutes so I do not forget to get back to work." Similarly, in a classroom or work context, a timer can refer to any device that keeps track of time, helping everyone stay on schedule. Sample sentences include, "Can you set the kitchen timer for 10 more minutes, please, and my phone can act as a kitchen timer when I do not have the real one handy." Next, we have biscuit cutter. A biscuit cutter is a round or shaped tool used to cut biscuits, cookies, or pastry dough into uniform pieces. The term biscuit often refers to a type of quick bread in some forms of English, but in a broader sense, you can use this tool for shaping cookies, scones, or even small bread rounds. In everyday language, a biscuit cutter can be mentioned when someone is baking and wants perfectly consistent shapes. For instance, your friend might say, "I prefer using a biscuit cutter rather than shaping dough by hand." In general conversation, you could also hear references to cookie cutters, which serve a similar purpose. Sample sentences might include, "Use the biscuit cutter to get neat circles for your shortcakes," or "I found a fun star-shaped biscuit cutter for the holiday cookies." Now, let us look at the term kitchen roll. This expression refers to a roll of absorbent paper towels that are usually kept in the kitchen. Kitchen roll is a handy item for cleaning up spills, wiping down surfaces, or drying off ingredients. In casual speech, you might hear, "Can you pass me the kitchen roll so I can wipe this up?" or "I always keep a spare kitchen roll in the cupboard just in case." You might also hear people call it paper towels, which is a widely used term in many English-speaking regions. If you want to emphasize its kitchen use, you might say, "My kitchen roll holder is next to the sink, so it is easy to grab when something spills." It is a simple term, but it is crucial in everyday kitchen vocabulary. You might find yourself saying, "I ran out of kitchen roll this morning, so I need to pick some up at the store." Moving on, the word apron refers to the protective garment worn over your clothes while you cook, bake, or do other messy tasks. An apron typically has straps you put around your neck and waist, preventing your clothes from getting stained or dirty. It is also used by chefs, bakers, and even artists who want to protect their outfit. In day-to-day conversation, you might hear, "Put on your apron so you do not ruin your shirt when you fry those patties," or "My grandmother gave me a personalized apron for my birthday." Aprons can be stylish or purely functional. Sometimes people use the phrase "tie on your apron strings" to indicate you are getting ready to work in the kitchen. A sample sentence could be, "Whenever I see my apron, I immediately feel like it is time to bake something delicious." The next term is cupcake case. A cupcake case is the small paper or foil liner that you put into a cupcake or muffin tray, and it helps to contain the batter and make it easy to remove the final baked good from the tray. This term is common in recipes and instructions for baking. Someone might say, "Be sure to fill each cupcake case only halfway so the cupcakes do not overflow." Cupcake cases come in many designs, so in a casual conversation, you could mention, "I found some really cute floral cupcake cases for the party." When giving instructions, you could say, "Place a cupcake case in each opening of the cupcake tray before pouring the batter." A sample sentence is, "The bakery used bright pink cupcake cases to match the birthday theme." Next is cupcake tray. A cupcake tray is the metal or silicone mold that has multiple cup-shaped sections where you place the cupcake cases and batter before baking. In daily speech, someone might say, "Can you grab the cupcake tray from the cupboard for me?" Or, "I just bought a non-stick cupcake tray, and it has made my baking so much easier." The term tray typically suggests something shallow with raised edges or compartments. In a broader sense, you might hear, "I love this new cupcake tray because it fits perfectly in my smaller oven." Sample sentences include, "Remember to lightly grease the cupcake tray if you run out of cupcake cases, and my mother taught me to fill the cupcake tray while it is already in the oven to avoid spilling the batter everywhere." Let us move on to Springclip tin. A Springclip tin, often called a springform pan, is a baking tin that has a removable base and a latch on the side, allowing the outer ring to expand and separate from the base. It is commonly used for cheesecakes or any baked good that needs careful handling. In casual conversation, you might hear, "I love my Springclip tin for making delicate cakes, because it is much easier to remove them without damaging the sides," or the recipe specifically says to use a Springclip tin so we can get the cake out smoothly. You might also hear instructions like, "Make sure you lock the Springclip tin properly so the batter does not leak." A sample sentence is, "After the cake cools, release the latch on the Springclip tin and gently lift it away to reveal your dessert." Another essential term is baking tray. A baking tray is a flat metal sheet or shallow rectangular pan that you use for baking items such as cookies, pastries, or roasting vegetables. In everyday speech, someone might say, "Put the dough on the baking tray before you slide it into the oven," or "I use the baking tray to roast my vegetables with olive oil." It is one of the most common baking utensils and can be found in virtually every kitchen. You might also hear the phrase oven tray in some regions. A good example sentence could be, "Remember to line the baking tray with parchment paper so the cookies do not stick." In a broader context, you could say, "My friend always washes the baking tray right after using it so the grease does not harden." Now, we come to knife sharpener. A knife sharpener is a tool used to sharpen the edges of knives, making cutting easier and safer. People often keep it in a kitchen drawer or on the counter so they can quickly give their knives a fresh edge. In daily conversation, someone might ask, "Where's the knife sharpener? I cannot slice these tomatoes properly," or "I like to sharpen my knives once a week to keep them working well." It is also common to discuss different types of knife sharpeners, such as electric sharpeners or simple handheld rods. A sample sentence might be, "Be cautious when you use the knife sharpener, and always draw the blade away from your body." Another example in context is, a good knife sharpener can extend the life of your favorite kitchen knives for years. Next, let us talk about pastry wheel. A pastry wheel is a small tool with a rotating blade used for cutting dough. Often, this wheel has a decorative edge, producing a fluted pattern on the dough. You can use it to cut pasta dough, pie crust, or pastry strips. In everyday conversations, you might hear, "Let me grab the pastry wheel to cut these dough strips for the top of the pie." It is also known for creating neat edges on homemade pasta. A typical sentence could be, "I prefer using a pastry wheel because it gives my pastries that professional crimped look." Another context might be, "The pastry wheel works well for shaping the edges of ravioli." This tool is quite handy when you want visually appealing results in your baking and cooking. The term oven glove refers to a thick, heat-resistant glove worn to protect your hands while removing hot dishes from the oven. Some people also call it an oven mitt. In a daily conversation, someone might say, "Hand me the oven glove before I take the cookies out," or "Watch out, that tray is really hot, so you will need an oven glove." This piece of kitchen gear is crucial for safety, and you can find it hanging in many kitchens. A sample sentence might be, "My oven glove has a silicone grip, which makes it easier to hold slippery pans." Another example is, if you do not use an oven glove, you risk burning your hands on the baking tray. Now, let us discuss the word tray. Although we mentioned specific trays earlier, like the cupcake tray or baking tray, the general term tray refers to a flat, shallow platform used for carrying or displaying items. In everyday life, you might hear, "Let me serve the tea on a tray so it is easier to carry," or "I keep a small tray on my coffee table for the remote and some coasters." Trays can be made from different materials such as plastic, metal, or wood, and they come in various sizes to accommodate different needs. A typical sentence could be, "My boss asked me to bring the documents on a tray so they would not get mixed up." Another example is, "You can bring breakfast upstairs on that tray if you want to surprise someone." Next is cake rack. A cake rack, sometimes called a cooling rack, is a metal rack designed to allow air to circulate around baked goods as they cool. This helps prevent soggy bottoms and ensures even cooling. In casual speech, a baker might say, "Transfer the cupcakes to the cake rack as soon as they come out of the oven," or "I put my cookies on a cake rack so they do not become too soft underneath." You might see the term cooling rack in recipes that instruct you to rest your cakes there before applying any frosting. A typical sentence could be, "If you do not have a cake rack, you can use an elevated oven rack or make a makeshift one with something else." Another everyday usage might be, "The recipe says to cool the bread on a cake rack for at least 30 minutes before slicing." The term piping bag refers to a cone-shaped bag, usually made of plastic or cloth, used to pipe out frosting, whipped cream, or other semi-soft foods in decorative patterns. You can attach different nozzles at the tip to create various shapes and designs. In everyday conversation, you might hear someone say, "I am going to use the piping bag to decorate my cupcakes with buttercream," or "A piping bag can be really useful for filling cannoli or eclairs." This tool is quite common in professional bakeries, but it has become increasingly popular in home kitchens too. A typical sentence is, "If you do not have a piping bag, you can use a plastic bag and cut a small opening at the corner." Another example is, "My piping bag came with several different tips for different frosting styles." Let us turn to baking parchment. Also known as parchment paper, it is a heat-resistant, non-stick paper used in baking to line trays and tins, preventing food from sticking and making cleanup easier. In a daily situation, you might say, "Line your baking tray with baking parchment so you do not have to scrape off burnt bits later." Some people also use it to create parchment packets for cooking fish or vegetables in the oven. You might hear, "I always have baking parchment on hand because it is so versatile." Sample sentences might include, I covered the dish with baking parchment to lock in the moisture, and I love how baking parchment saves me from having to scrub trays for hours after baking. Now, let us explore Clingfilm. Clingfilm is a thin plastic wrap used for sealing food in containers or covering dishes to keep them fresh. It clings to surfaces, creating a tight seal that blocks air from entering, helping to preserve food. In everyday conversation, someone might say, "Can you cover the leftover pasta with cling film before you put it in the fridge?" Or, "I wrapped the sandwiches in cling film to keep them from drying out." It is also sometimes called plastic wrap. Sample sentences include, "Make sure to remove the cling film before you put the dish in the oven, and use cling film if you want to marinate the chicken and prevent the flavors from escaping." Tinfoil is next on our list. Tinfoil refers to a thin metal foil, often made of aluminum, used to cover or wrap food. It helps seal in moisture, heat, and flavor. In casual speech, you might hear, "Cover the casserole dish with tinfoil so it does not burn," or "Wrap your baked potatoes in tinfoil before cooking them." You might also encounter the term aluminum foil, which is extremely common in modern kitchens. A typical sentence is, "I used tinfoil to cover the turkey so the skin would not get too dark." Another example might be, "My grandmother always wraps leftovers in tinfoil to keep them warm longer." Moving on, we have bin bag. A bin bag is a large plastic bag used to line a waste bin or trash can. It helps contain the garbage and makes disposal more hygienic and convenient. In daily life, someone might say, "The bin bag is full. Could you take it out to the dumpster?" Or, "Make sure you tie up the bin bag before you throw it out." Another expression you might hear is trash bag or garbage bag. A sample sentence could be, "Do not forget to replace the bin bag, so the new garbage does not dirty the inside of the bin." In a broader context, you might note, "We use eco-friendly bin bags that are biodegradable and better for the environment." Next, let us talk about mixing bowl. A mixing bowl is a large bowl used to mix ingredients, typically in baking or cooking. You might hear someone say, "Can you grab the mixing bowl so we can make the cake batter?" Or, "I have various sizes of mixing bowls for different recipes." Mixing bowls can be made of glass, metal, or plastic, and they are one of the most frequently used items in a kitchen. A sample sentence is, "Combine the flour, sugar, and eggs in a mixing bowl, then stir until smooth." Another way to use the term is, "If the mixing bowl is too small, the ingredients might spill over, so choose a bigger one for bread dough." Finally, let us look at the word hourglass. An hourglass is a device that uses sand flowing from one chamber to another to measure a specific amount of time, traditionally 1 hour or a few minutes, depending on its size. Although it may not be as common in modern kitchens as a timer, some people still use a small hourglass to time eggs or short baking tasks. In conversation, you might hear, "My grandmother used an hourglass instead of a digital timer because she loves the charm of the sand trickling down," or, "We only had a tiny hourglass that measured 3 minutes, so we flipped it once more for the full 6 minutes." Sample sentences could be, "The hourglass is a neat way to time my steeping tea, and I like flipping the hourglass to see how much longer I need to wait." And that brings us to the end of our detailed exploration of these kitchen tools and baking essentials. We have covered quite a few items, from everyday objects like kitchen roll to more specialized tools like a piping bag. Each word brings a new piece of insight into how we talk about cooking, baking, and general kitchen routines in English. Having a broad vocabulary helps you express yourself more precisely, so these words are great to learn if you enjoy spending time in the kitchen or simply want to understand recipes more easily. Remember, the best way to make these words part of your long-term memory is to practice using them. You can try forming your own sentences or imagining a kitchen scenario where you speak out loud about each tool. Thank you so much for joining me on Hello Word today. I hope you found this episode both fun and useful. If you would like to hear more episodes like this, make sure you subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an update. I would love to have you as a regular listener, and your reviews or feedback will help this show grow and reach more people who are on their own English learning journeys. Come back next time for more exciting words and engaging discussions that will guide you toward a richer, more confident understanding of English. Until then, keep exploring new words, keep practicing, and above all, keep having fun with your language learning adventures.